Hello everyone, this is a 2015 Lenovo U31. Now why do I have this thing, you ask? Well, as much fun as it is to talk about all these high-end rigs with 12 or 16 core CPUs or RTX 2080 Ti's, the average person may not be able to afford all that. In fact, the average person may not even care about that at all. A laptop such as this, with its 2-core, 4-thread i5 5200U and its 8GB of RAM, is plenty for most people. What the average person might care about more though is how long he or she gets to keep their current laptop without needing to spend the money to upgrade to a new one. This U31 is about 4 years into its life, and it's currently got a 120GB Samsung SATA SSD. And it's starting to age a little bit. You feel a little bit of lag when you're opening documents or running some programs. So in order to keep it fresh, we're going to replace it with one of these. This is a Samsung 860 EVO 500GB. That's right! Welcome to another episode of Driving Me Crazy. Let's get to work. Okay, so before we begin, let's first talk about what we're gonna do. If you watched my previous Driving Me Crazy video with the M.2 drive, then the steps we're gonna do here are pretty much identical to what we did last time, except with a few minor details changed because this is a SATA drive and not M.2. But it largely remains the same. So first we gotta clone the drive using AOMEI Backupper, which is the same software I used as last time. I'll have that link below. And finally, we get to the more exciting part where we tear this baby open and physically swap the drives. But before we do all that, let's first install this SSD within the adapter so we can connect it to the computer. Okay, so this is going to be a really easy process because unlike M.2, we don't have to screw our drive down into a board to install it. This is completely toolless installation, so you can just leave your screwdrivers aside for now because we will be needing them later. Side note, if you want to use this video as a guide for replacing your laptop hard drive, you can, because this SSD and a laptop hard drive share the same 2.5-inch form factor and the same SATA connector, so don't worry about it, this video still applies. So first step, let's take our adapter and open it up. Be advised each adapter may have a different opening mechanism. Mine pushes out like this to reveal the slot and the SATA connectors inside. Second step, you take our SSD and align the SATA connectors on it with the ones inside. Be advised, these are asymmetric. There's a shorter and a longer one, so you can't flip it around and have it still work. So I believe this is how they're aligned. Yep. Then you take your SSD and place it like this into the caddy. And next step is to press it down. But you will hear a crunching or scratching sound, so don't worry about that, because that's just the sound that the SATA connectors make when they're coming into contact, so you can ignore that. So let's press it down. You're about to hear the sound. Yep, there it is. Then we can close it up and use this cable to connect it to the computer. Okay, so to connect your SSD into the computer, all you have to do is get your cable, plug it into the adapter, like so. There we go. And then connect it into the USB port. And now I'll be recording from the computer, and we can start the cloning process. Alright, so I'm recording from the computer now, and the first thing to do always on a new drive is to initialize the partition, because if you try to find it in File Explorer, you won't. Windows does not recognize it as a USB drive. So let's go into Disk Management. There we go. Create and format hard disk partitions. And we're greeted with a window asking us to initialize the disk. Because this disk is uninitialized, that's why we can't see it in Windows Explorer. So let's go with a GPT partition style. And there we go. Now it's initialized, it's online, and we can allocate this partition as a new simple volume. Yep, 476,000 megabytes, 500 gigabytes, that checks out. Click next. Assign the following drive letter D, yep. Don't worry about the letters. NTFS default, yep. It's all good. Now we have a new volume. But we're not going to put anything in there the traditional way. We're not going to copy everything from Windows C. We're going to use AOMEI Backupper to completely back up everything on the 120 gig drive onto the 500 gig drive. So let's open up AOMEI Backupper Standard. Yes. Clone. We're cloning the drive. Disk clone, and we select the disk that you want to clone first, which is the entirety of the 120 gig drive, this one. Then we select the destination disk, i.e. where all the data will go to. So this one, the 500 gig drive. Then the existing partitions, yes, because there's nothing on there, so we can go ahead without considering much else. Okay, so the summary, we have the source disk, which is the 120 gig drive, and the destination disk, which is the 500 gig drive. And if we want to see the final partitions, copy without resizing partitions. So it transfers everything from the original 120 gig drive onto the 500 gig drive, leaving us with 350 gigs of extra space. We can allocate that partition later because we ideally want a separate drive letter. So we can leave that as it is for now. Okay, so we can start the clone now, and this will take a couple minutes, not too long I'm thinking, because there is only around 60 or 70 gigabytes of data on the current 120 gig drive. Okay, it's been around 45 minutes and the disk clone is finally complete. Who knew that could take so long? But anyway, let's check if everything is there. We can go into disk management just to examine all the partitions. Okay. So these are all the partitions on the original 120 gig drive. These are all the partitions on the 500 gig drive we have attached to the USB port. So everything looks to be all right. Now we can take this drive out of the adapter and we can finally tear this computer open and swap the drives. Okay, so the disk clone is now complete. We can turn off the computer and get to work. So now we are safe to swap the drives. Let's close it up, disconnect because the computer is off, and let's take the SSD out of the adapter. It's a little hot. Okay, there it is. And now let's flip this baby over. And there should be 10 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 4 hard drive screws. So these look like kind of small Phillips. So let's use one of those. Okay. These screws seem to come out very early compared to where the hole ends, so we gotta force it out using magnetic screwdriver head. Come on out. It doesn't want to come on out. Okay, that last screw was quite annoying to remove, but I got them all out. Oh, that's the inside, guys. There's a RAM, the battery, and the SSD in question. So now all we have to do is take this out, and there are 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, and there's one here that's covered by a Lenovo sticker. There we go. So let's get our screwdriver and get cracking. Now we can take this little tab and pull. Oh, there we go. Slide it out. Yep. That's the SSD. And now we have to remove 4 other screws on each side, one here, one there. So now we slide out the old SSD. There we go. Samsung CM871 128 gig. Pretty cool. But now in comes the new SSD. Now it goes in like this, so we have to insert it in this orientation. Just slide it all the way to the back and reinsert those screws. Alright, now the SSD is in place. We can just gently put it back into the SATA connectors at a little bit of an angle. Push it in, there we go. Set it down gently. Then we can screw the SSD caddy in directly. Alright, drive swapped. Now we can place the cover back on and screw everything back just as it was before. Perfect. Let's flip it around and boot it up. Put back the wireless receiver for the mouse. Let's see if it works. Yeah! Perfect. And don't worry about that. That's just an update from before. It didn't complete, so yeah, it looks like everything is okay. Let's just go into Windows and just browse around and see what's going on. Okay, so last thing is to initialize the 350 gig partition, and to do that we just go into disk management yet again, and then right click, new simple volume, and just use the same options that we used before. Assign the following drive letter E, sure, NTFS default, and wait for it. And now we have an allocated partition of 350 gigabytes. Perfect. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Please also remember to hit that bell icon next to it so you don't miss any future videos. Post your questions, comments, thoughts, feedback, or suggestions down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.